Following a spate of left-wing political violence that has prompted even a prominent liberal magazine to warn that left-wing terrorism is on the rise, a Democrat voter shot up an immigration and customs enforcement facility yesterday. Much like the assassin who murdered Charlie Kirk in Utah, the shooter used a rifle from an adjacent rooftop, and he left a message on his bullets. In this case, a slogan opposing ICE. ICE, which Democrats have spent the better part of a decade comparing to the Gestapo. If you followed this shooting in the establishment media, you would conclude that the shooter's ideological inclinations are just unknowable. And if you watched MSNBC, you would think he was on the right. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Police in London have been caught on tape threatening to arrest a Jew for looking too Jewish around Muslims. I am not joking. We will get to that momentarily. First, I want to tell you about Leaf Filter. Go to leaffilter.com/Knowles. Fall is a great time of the year, with the trees changing in bold colors all around, making everything look sharp and rugged. With pumpkin spice lattes galore, it's lovely. Those autumn leaves look nice until they end up clogging your gutters, causing headaches and potential damage. With Leaf Filter, America's top gutter protection company, you can enjoy the season without worrying about cleaning them out ever again. Right now, you can schedule a free inspection and estimate, plus save up to 30% on your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S. You could keep messing around with those cheap DIY fixes from the hardware store, but how many times do you really want to climb a ladder and scoop out gunk with your bare hands? You know how many times I want to? 0. That's how many. Leaf Filter is the permanent solution, built with patented technology that only lets water through. No gaps, no holes, no excuses. Every installation comes with a lifetime no clogs guarantee. Once it's on, you're done. Here's the kicker. A Leaf Filter Pro does not just slap it on and leave. He will actually clean, realign, and seal your gutters first so everything works the way it's supposed to. Over 1 million homeowners already trust it, probably because they're tired of wasting Saturdays cleaning out gutters. Do not spend the season worrying about gutters. Schedule your free inspection and get up to 30% off your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/Knowles, leaffilter.com/Knowles. Free estimate, free inspection, 30% off, leaffilter.com/Knowles. See representative for warranty details. Another day, another shooting. And I don't want to get totally out ahead of this. I certainly don't want to pull a Jimmy Kimmel and lie about the ideological motivations of a shooter. But I also don't want to be like the establishment media and make assumptions that are maybe unfounded. So I'm just going to give you the facts. You draw your own conclusions for now. Someone shot up an ICE facility yesterday. ICE, which has been one of the chief targets of the left, all the way up to the most mainstream parts of the left for the better part of a decade now. The shooting, ironically, didn't end up killing any ICE officers. It ended up killing one detainee, so an illegal alien who was being held by ICE, and injured 2 others seriously. The suspect is a guy from Fairview, Texas. He wrote on at least one of the bullets, and he wrote anti-ICE. He didn't even engrave it, but there are eerie connections here to the Charlie Kirk assassination because it was a shooting from an adjacent rooftop, used a rifle with messages on the bullets, left-wing messages on the bullets, in this case, anti-ICE. What do we know about the guy? We know that he was registered to vote in Texas, and he voted in the Democrat primary in March of 2020. In Texas, they have open primaries, so that doesn't necessarily tell you about his party affiliation, but pretty good evidence. He's at least a Democrat voter. He also registered to vote in the state of Oklahoma. I guess his parents had a property in Oklahoma, and he registered to vote as an independent there. So no record that he's a Republican, strong evidence that he's a Democrat because he voted in a Democrat primary. He does have a criminal record. He was charged with selling marijuana back in 2015. Not exactly the most right-wing crime, definitely codes a little bit more to the left. But there are plenty of right-wingers who have puffed the devil's lettuce every now and again. So are we sure that this signals a left-winger? I think so, because it's not just a guy who smoked a couple of jazz cigarettes in college. This is a guy who, in 2017, reportedly drove cross-country to work a minimum wage job farming for months. So not just willing to take a puff on the old Peruvian parsley to hang with the guys, but otherwise conservative. This is a guy who is clearly fanatical about the Mary Jane, and I've basically only ever seen that on the left. According to Andy No, who always gets really good information about left-wing terrorists, this guy's sister is apparently woke. Again, that's not dispositive. Plenty of people have different political views from the rest of their family, but I think in light of all of the other evidence, you would have to conclude that it is overwhelmingly likely that this guy has left-wing political affiliations. So why would someone of any political stripe shoot up an ICE facility? Where would someone have gotten the idea that we should shoot up people whose job it is merely to enforce one of the most basic laws in our country, the laws that say that we have the right to determine who gets in, who gets to use our services, who gets to eventually become a citizen? Why would you shoot up ICE? Can we turn to the supercut from Town Hall?
ICE is looking more and more like an American Gestapo.
They're huddled around the elevator banks in masks without identifying information. What a terrifying, these are Gestapo tactics.
But it has created this year, as they've seen, the kind of fascist ICE Gestapo militias go round up Latino American citizens in places like LA.
ICE agents, masked ICE Gestapo agents, getting more funding than any other law enforcement agency in the history of the United States.
ICE running Gestapo-like around our country.
The Gestapo had the same function. It was there to draw a distinction between us and them. It was not federally, it was controlled by the leader. And we're seeing disturbing similarities between this force and the Gestapo.
We've got these masked thug cowards kidnapping innocent people and sending them off to be slaves or tortured in other countries.
Dressing like thugs and acting like thugs.
People still want to come here despite the crazy. They still want to come here because they know in this land, their voice is protected. Their rights are protected. And there won't be jackbooted thugs coming in wearing masks over their face to take them off the streets. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, Simone, that's happening.
Oh, it's happening.
That's happening right now.
That was just MSNBC. That whole supercut from Town Hall, that was, 70, 80 seconds? That was just MSNBC. Look around at the other left-wing news networks. Look around at the other left-wing newspapers. Look at the left-wing politicians. Jasmine Crockett. We played yesterday Jasmine Crockett comparing ICE to slave patrols. Tim Walz, almost one heartbeat away from becoming the second woman president. Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota. Pramila Jayapal, the liberal Congress lady, Rashida Tlaib, member of the Squad, liberal Congress lady, all made similar comments. And what is the semantic value of calling ICE Gestapo or calling ICE slave patrols? What is conveyed in doing that? What's the point of saying that? The point of saying that is to justify their murder. The same way that when Joe Biden comes out and says that Donald Trump poses an existential threat to the country, the semantic value of that statement, the point of that statement, is to justify his murder. If Trump's just a nasty guy, that doesn't justify his murder. If he poses an existential threat to the whole country, then killing him would be self-defense. Same here. If ICE is the Gestapo, then in the popular imagination, that justifies their assassination. If someone told you just today, hey, you have the opportunity to kill Hitler, would you do it? Of course you would do it. Everyone would do it. Virtually everyone would do it. I guess some people who think really, really deeply about ethics might give a more complicated answer, but colloquially, yes, that means, that's the kind of person you would be justified in killing. This isn't even just hypothetical or rhetorical. In California, Gavin Newsom is trying to do just that. Gavin Newsom is trying to pass a law that would remove ICE agents' masks, which is ironic because Gavin Newsom spent years making 2-year-olds mask up over the Wuhan virus. But now he says ICE agents can't mask up. The reason that ICE agents have to mask up is because they're going after criminal cartels, foreign terrorist organizations, and they're arousing the ire of radical leftists in America. And frankly, at this point, I'm not sure which one is more violent. But in any case, you've got very dangerous people very violent people who are going to dox you, who are going to target you, who could kill your families. That's why the ICE agents have to wear the masks. Gavin Newsom is trying to get them to remove those masks. He even tauntingly asks, what are you so afraid of? And he knows what the answer is. I'm afraid of your guys killing me, or of the foreign criminals that you're protecting killing me. That's the reason I'm wearing it. And Newsom says, yeah, that's right. Well, they're going to kill you. So take the mask off, and maybe then you'll stop enforcing the law. Now, Newsom has no right to pass this law because of the supremacy clause, because this is federal immigration enforcement, not state level. But it just shows you it's the entire political order. Says repeatedly, day in, day out, ad nauseum, that federal immigration enforcement, just law enforcement officers, should be murdered. They're saying you would be justified in murdering these people. And now we have to pretend to be surprised when a guy who, by all available evidence, is on the left. We will reserve judgment. We want further investigation. I'm just going with the evidence that we have now. Would point to left-wing sympathies. Goes out and tries to murder them. Incompetently, because, of course, he only murdered the detainees. Nevertheless, add another one to the list of the political terrorism. The vice president took this on head on. We'll get to that in one moment. First, I want to tell you about Policy Genius. Go to policygenius.com/Knowles. What would happen if you unexpectedly passed away tomorrow? Might sound jarring, but nearly half of American adults would face financial hardship within 6 months if they lost their primary income due to a loss or tragedy of that kind. Luckily, Policy Genius makes finding life insurance simple, helps you secure real coverage so your loved ones have the financial safety net when they need it the most. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. It's an easy way to protect the people you love and feel good about the future. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace, helps you compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Their team of licensed agents walks you through the entire process step by step, handling paperwork and advocating for you while clearly laying out all of your options, coverage amounts, prices, terms, with no guesswork. With thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot, Policy Genius has earned customers' trust by helping them find the best policy fit for their needs. Secure your family's future with Policy Genius. Go to policygenius.com/Knowles, KNWLES. Compare free life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you could save. policygenius.com/Knowles. J.D. Vance was given a speech already scheduled in Concord, North Carolina. I believe it was already scheduled. And after this shooting, he came out and had this to say about the mainstream widespread liberal attacks on law enforcement.
And I think that is the most disgusting thing. The very people who keep us safe ought to be honored and protected and praised by Democrats and Republicans alike. It is time to stop the rhetorical assault on law enforcement. Because here's what happens. Because here's what happens when Democrats, like Gavin Newsom did, say that these people are part of an authoritarian government. When the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration policies. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies. But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell, and you have no place in the political conversation of the United States of America.
I love these comments for many reasons. One, because he's getting tough, because he's calling out the problem, because he's defending law enforcement. It's that last part there that I love. He says, if you are doing these things, if you are telling lies about law enforcement and causing violence against them, you have no place in the political conversation in America. Spot on. The vice president just gets it. This really pertains to the whole conversation we've been having for the last couple of weeks about the free marketplace of ideas, about what the First Amendment is for, what political discourse means in a self-government like ours. Does the free marketplace of ideas, does free speech mean that just any sound, any grunt, any babble that comes out of your vocal cords is to be permitted and encouraged in the public square? Of course not. That's not what the First Amendment means. That's why the First Amendment, from the beginning, has always prohibited certain forms of speech, like fraud, like direct threats, like obscenity, among other types. The reason for that is that those types of speech actually undermine speech. If you commit fraud, and if fraud is protected and permitted, then you would have no confidence in the free marketplace of ideas. You would have no reason to believe that the information you're getting in the free marketplace of ideas is reliable. It would actually collapse the free marketplace of ideas. If you permit direct threats, that doesn't expand the free marketplace of ideas. It actually greatly shrinks it because you're telling, I don't know, half the people that if they come in and speak their mind, they're going to be murdered. That obviously stifles speech. Even obscenity. The reason why obscenity is not protected is because anyone who's ever looked at a naked lady on the internet knows that when you are looking at obscene content, that doesn't aid your rational faculties. That actually undermines your rational faculties. It undermines the possibility of rational discourse. That's why. Going all the way back to the Constitution, going back even much further than that. And in this case, he's saying, when you lie about law enforcement in this way, when you lie in such a way as to encourage violence, in some cases, if you directly incite violence, you have no place in the political conversation in America. Even this point on lies, it's really important. A friend of mine once described the issue precisely to me. He said, well, you know, Michael, I refer to lies as contraceptive speech. I said, contraceptive speech, what does that mean? He said, well, just as the purpose of sex is procreation, and one of the reasons that contraception is a little sus, a little dubious, is immoral, is because it forecloses the purpose of the act. It turns the act away from the thing that it's intended for. Well, the same thing with speech. What is speech for? Speech is for conveying the truth. And when you tell a lie, you're going through the motions of speech. You know, you're making sounds, you're moving your mouth. If you're Italian, you're moving your hands. But you're undermining its purpose. You're turning speech against its very purpose. Because you're not conveying the truth. You're actually undermining the truth. Brilliant point from JD. Really shows you, I think, the guy knows what time it is. The guy understands the urgency of this moment. Because there are still some people who see the polls, see the surveys of very liberal people being 8 times as likely to support political violence as very conservative people, who see 30% plus of young liberals defending political violence. Many, many multiples higher than conservatives and moderates. Many multiples higher than older liberals even. They're looking at this. They're seeing the spate of attacks. So you can go back to BLM or go back earlier, but then you just see all the transgender ideology encouraging violence. You can see, obviously, the assassination of Charlie, now this attack on the ICE facility. They see this problem, and some of these, I don't know, older conservatives or moderates, they say, oh, well, you know, this problem will work itself out. I'm not sure that it will. All of the available evidence says the political violence from the left is going to get worse unless we do something about it. Unless we reform our political conversation in America, unless we enforce the law against people who are violating it with their physical violence and violating it with even speech acts. Okay. Speaking of one's place in society and speech and violence, a couple of young conservatives, Lance Johnston and Cam Higbee, showed up to campus, obviously inspired by Charlie Kirk, for what they're calling the Fearless Debate Tour, to do what Charlie did, to set up a table, have conversations. Charlie was not the only one who did this. Crowder did this as well. A lot of people did this kind of thing. Tabling in the middle of a quad, having open conversations. These guys chose to do it at Tennessee State. Tennessee State University is a taxpayer-subsidized, historically black university. These guys are, at least one of them's white. The other one is not white. He's a little duskier, kind of like me. You know, I don't know exactly. I don't see his pedigree on screen, but at least one of them's a white guy. And they show up to this historically black university. The topics of debate were DEI should be illegal and deport all. Now let's talk. Here's just a brief cut of how it went.
So what part of our systems is for people of color?
All of it. The entire system is for everybody. Anybody who's an American citizen.
So you feel like there's nothing. So you feel like everybody is equal.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's equal in their rights, but not everybody's obviously equal in their, what they have.
This system can't be ignored. Like, we can't just say it does not exist, because there are countless examples of it existing.
Maybe just one example of what you're talking about. So what's wrong with the system that allows, I guess, racism to be systemic or institutionalized?
He just shrugs his shoulders. Okay, so then they fast forward a little bit. More students come. You've seen people start to film it. And then some girl goes and takes the signs down. Then some other girl goes and steals one of the signs. And then a guy, is that a guy? It looks like a guy steals a sign, then some other guy wearing a do-rag and a wife beater starts yelling at him. And then as they're driving away, a mob of these students starts screaming at them. I think one of them is holding a BLM sign. Anyway, in response, Cam Higbee of this crew comes out and says, if you want to talk to people who disagree with you, you go to the place where people disagree with you. So that he said, that's why we're coming here to have these conversations. It's obviously inspired by what Charlie was doing. Here's what the school had to say. Tennessee State University. Statement on unauthorized campus activity. Today, a group of individuals unaffiliated with Tennessee State appeared on campus without prior notice in accordance with university policy. Any demonstration or protest activity requires advance approval and permitting. They were escorted off the university grounds. Blah, the safety and well-being of our students is our highest priority. Okay, so fair enough. Fair enough. When Charlie would do these events, when any of us give any speeches on campus, obviously I've been doing that for many years at this point, as have a lot of us, we get advance approval and all the rest of it. Now, it's a taxpayer-funded university, but put all that aside. Sure, they say you guys should have gotten a permit first. Okay. Not one statement on the behavior of the students. Not one statement. Not one, hey, also students, you shouldn't steal the signs. Also students, you shouldn't threaten people. Also students, you shouldn't mob around the car. Also students, you should be able to have a conversation. You should be able to properly speak the English language and exchange ideas. Not one statement about that. And if you look at Tennessee State, it's being reported that the graduation rate is abysmal. I think it's like 23% or something like that. For some reason, these universities are still being funded by the government. I think it gets to a point that I was talking about yesterday, which is, I guess we've been talking about it for a whole week, which is not everything is for everybody. I think way too many people go to college and university today, and they really have no place there. They have no interest in being there. In a lot of cases, it's only going to saddle them with debt. And the only consequence on the university is it's going to reduce standards. That's all it does. It doesn't benefit anybody. It only damages people. Likewise, when you allow screaming banshees and terrorists and radical ideologues with suicidal ideologies into the public marketplace of ideas, you only undermine the marketplace of ideas. You don't expand it. You don't encourage healthy discourse. You just undermine the whole thing. And so you actually have to exclude those people. You can't just wish civilized behavior into existence. I guess that's my point. The idea of sending these students, I'm not saying every student at this university. Obviously, 23% of them are doing relatively all right. But the ones who aren't going to graduate, they really have no place at the university. And certainly that mob of students there, they have no place at a university. They probably don't have place in high school. Okay, they clearly haven't learned very much. And so what's the benefit of sending them to these universities? They don't even know how to have a conversation, much less to rigorously pursue the truth in a way that involves hours and hours of study and lots of discipline and suppressing one's passions. They're just apparently not capable of that. So they need to go do something else. You can't just wish civilized behavior into existence. And this gets to my broader point on the marketplace of ideas. You can't just wish a healthy, free exchange of ideas into existence. And that's what a lot of people want to do in the wake of Charlie's assassination and all of this increased political violence. They want to just kind of wish it into existence. They say, well, we're just going to close our eyes and wish double extra hard for a healthy, free exchange of ideas. You're not going to get that. If you want to have a healthy exchange of ideas, you have to suppress the elements, the people and the ideas that are undermining that. You actually need to use the power of the government and of civil associations and of businesses in a just and temperate way to establish the market conditions that will allow for that exchange of ideas. You look at that scene, you say, this is a huge embarrassment. This is not a university in any meaningful sense of the term. We should be discouraging that. Whatever Tennessee State is, whatever it's producing, which is 3/4 flunkies and a mob of these people, we should be ashamed of that. We should be discouraging that. We certainly should not be subsidizing that with taxpayer dollars. Now, speaking of political disorder, a police officer in London has just threatened to arrest a Jew for looking too Jewish around Muslims. He committed the crime of being a Jew around Muslims. We'll get to that momentarily. First, I want to tell you about Shopify. Go to shopify.com/Knowles. I've started a number of businesses, I guess, technically. And early on, when I was starting out, boy, oh boy, would we have all benefited from Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. We even use it on our own DailyWire shop to make sure things are running smoothly and efficiently so you can all get the goods. Now, you might be asking, what if I can't design a website? What if I'm worried that people have not heard of my brand? Not a problem. Shopify's got you covered from the start with beautiful, ready-to-go templates that match your brand's style and helps you find customers through easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. If you need a hand with everyday tasks, their AI tools created specifically for commerce can help enhance product images, write descriptions, and more. Plus, their award-winning customer support is available 24/7 to share advice if you ever get stuck. Turn your business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial. Start selling today at shopify.com/Knowles. That is shopify.com/Knowles, Knowles, shopify.com/Knowles. This video going viral out of the UK.
You are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to you now. You've been escorted out of this area so you can go about your business, go where you like freely, or if you choose to remain here, because you are causing a breach of peace with other people, you will be arrested. And we'll discuss this with you. If I remain here, you will arrest me. Because your presence here is antagonising a large group of people, and we can't deal with all of them if they attack you or if they because your presence is antagonising.
You are, excuse me there, Shlomo. You're rather openly Jewish, I see. You got that hat on, and I don't think you're the Pope. So you understand here, you're going to have to scram. Why? Well, you see, because you're a Jew, you're looking like a Jew, yeah. And anyway, the Muslims don't like that very much, so I'm going to have to arrest you understand? Because this is merry old England. And we do whatever the roving gangs of bloodthirsty Muslims want us to do. If you have any daughters, we'd love to deliver them up to the Muslim gangs as well, if you wouldn't mind there. Yeah, that'd be very nice. Thank you. And then on your merry way. Thanks. No dreidels out here, mate. That's not good, is it? He says that the Jew is creating a breach of peace by existing around Muslims. Imagine this is a pro-Palestine march. Imagine this were, a pro-Armenia march. It's Armenia, the oldest Christian country in the world, became Christian before the Edict of Milan legalized Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. Let's say there was a pro-Armenian march, and there were a Jew walking around. Do you think that the Armenian Christians would threaten to kill the Jew? And do you think they would get the cops to say, hey, you got to stop being a Jew here? No. Christians don't do that, generally speaking. So then the question to me is not, do you want people in your country who support Palestine? I've long said I have the least popular view of the Israel-Palestine conflict, which is I think it's complicated. We don't need to rehash the curves and details of that now, but I recognize it's a complicated debate. But my question is not, do you want people in your country who are pro-Palestine? My question is not, are you a big fan of Judaism or the State of Israel or any? That's not my question. My question is, do you really want to allow a lot of people into your country who harass Jews all the time? Is that civilized behavior? Forget about your opinions of Islam or Judaism or Christianity for that matter. Just, do you want to live in a country where a Jewish guy can't walk around in his yarmulke without fear of being arrested? And without fear of being arrested in order to protect him from the mob that wants to get him? Do you want to live in that kind of country? That's antisocial behavior by Western standards. That's contrary to the kind of countries that we generally like to live in. This is a big, big problem. And it's an especially big problem in London, Londonistan. I have a friend of mine in the UK. Frequently when he texts me, and if he's going to say, good luck or something like that, he'll say, best wishes, good luck, or as we say in London, inshallah. I think it's become Londonistan. It's become Pakistan West or something. And that's going to reshape the culture. And it's not even about the particulars of the conservative Jew and the Shiite or the Sunni Muslim or this. It's just, I would prefer, putting all questions of religion aside, I would prefer to live in a country where Jews don't get arrested because their very existence riles up the bloodthirsty passions of mobs on the streets. I would prefer to live in that kind of country. And if mass Muslim migration in the UK is causing this kind of thing, then the UK should do something about it. Will they? No. And I think it's because of the limitless ideologies of liberalism. The ideologies that say any kind of limits, any kind of exclusions, any kind of taboos necessarily suppress freedom and autonomy, and we can't have that. And they always focus on immigration in that way. They say, well, we can't exclude anyone in immigration. We can't put any caps on immigration because if we did that, that would be illiberal. But when you do just flood a country, especially a small little island nation, with one particular group of people, and they bring with them all of their animosities that are sort of foreign to your country, then you're going to have to exclude Jews from Piccadilly Circle, I guess, because the mobs that you let in the name of autonomy and freedom and limitless expression, they don't like them. Those people are going to set the exclusions because all societies need exclusions. Okay, speaking of religion and politics, and I want to go back to MSNBC. I have to go back and beat up on MSNBC because MSNBC is sounding the alarm. Whenever there's any political scandal with the left, the story is never that the left did something bad. It's always that the right is pouncing, the fear of the blowback of the right, whatever. And so they're sounding the alarm. Tina Nguyen on MSNBC, sounding the alarm on Christian nationalists like Aristotle.
What you are seeing here is a movement called Christian nationalism that merges Christianity as it's been practiced in America for, centuries with a very specific interpretation of what the founding fathers wanted, what Aristotle wanted, going all the way back to the ancients. You saw Larry Arnn, who is the president of Hillsdale College and a proponent of this strain of interpretation of the Bible, merge Christianity and protecting the Western civilization values into one and the same thing. It's a very somewhat convoluted argument, but if you distill it into the right talking points, it really hits you in the patriotic heart area, as it were.
Okay, really interesting. So we need to fear Christian nationalists like Aristotle, who lived centuries before Christ. Yes, got it. Okay, so Aristotle, if you support Aristotle, you're a Christian nationalist. Aristotle, who lived, what shall we say, at least 16 centuries? No, sorry, more like 18 centuries before nationalism, maybe more. Not a Christian, pagan, Greek. Aristotle is a Christian nationalist. Who else is a Christian nationalist? According to this woman, Larry Arnn, president of Hillsdale College, is a Christian nationalist. Larry Arnn, by the way, whose School of Philosophy is comes from Leo Strauss. Leo Strauss, notably a Jew, not any kind of Christian nationalist. And then according to New York City Councilman Justin Brannan, he was reacting to Stephen Miller's excellent speech at Charlie Kirk's memorial. It says, beyond grotesque, Miller is a megalomaniac, unmoored Christian nationalist whose rage belies any notion of grief. Stephen Miller, who say whatever you like about him, don't think he's a Christian. I think he's a little bit more like that guy in London who was almost arrested for existing, a member of a certain ancient nomadic tribe. So these people, they use this phrase, Christian nationalism. And the best examples they can pick. Not one of them promotes Christian nationalism, and two of the examples are not Christian. You pick a pagan and you pick a Jew. We're going to have to do a Matt Walsh-style documentary, aren't we? I almost didn't. We're going to have to do What is a Christian? They don't even know what a Christian is. If you say that Christian nationalism is the ideology of Aristotle, you are I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or to unfair, or if your argument is that Christian nationalism is the ideology of Aristotle, you don't even know what Christianity is. If Stephen Miller is your example of Christian nationalism, you don't know what Christianity is. You don't know what Judaism is. You don't know anything. It's just a phrase that they use. Are these people capable of speech? Speech has been the topic, obviously, for the past couple of weeks. Are these people capable of speech? They can make sounds. They make sounds, and they gesticulate, and they kind of go through the performance of speech, but their words don't mean anything. It's just like sounds jumbled together. And this is a critique I've made of the left for almost a decade now. One of the hallmarks of the left, in my experience, is that they love the appearance of a thing, but not the essence of the thing. They like vegan meat, vegan sausage, or I don't know, decaf coffee or something like that. They want the appearance, the trappings of the thing, but not the essence of the thing. They want the appearance of speech, the appearance of political discourse. If you're calling Stephen Miller and Aristotle Christian nationalists, you're not capable of speech. Now, speaking of speeches, President Trump made a great one at the UN yesterday. There's one last clip of it. I played a little bit of it yesterday. There's one last clip I want to get to because it's quite pertinent. Download the DailyWire Plus app and bring the entire show everywhere you go. Inside the app, tap follow under my picture. You will get notifications the second I go live or drop a new episode. Step away anytime, come back exactly where you left off. Plus, you can watch all the same clips everyone's arguing about on social media without having to suffer through social media. The app is where our community lives, chatting live during shows, sharing ideas, debating the big questions, and because it's ours, it can't be canceled, censored, or shut down. Download the Daily Wire Plus app now in the App Store, Google Play, Roku, Samsung, and more. My favorite comment yesterday is from Emily's 5024. Says, all of a sudden, the libs don't trust the science. It's so true. They don't. On Tylenol. Oh, I hope we have time to get to Tylenol. Maybe we might have to get to that tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe I'll try to fly through this. President Trump shows up to the UN. And he attacks the UN for encouraging mass illegal migration into America, for funding it, for calling for it. And he says, you guys are really undermining our interests here. Raises a question. Why does the U.S. fund the UN? We fund 22% of the UN's regular budget, 27% of the peacekeeping budget. Why? We host them in New York. Why? If the UN is an instrument of American imperial power, if the UN advances America's national interest, great. I'm all for it. I think we should be involved in geopolitics. I think we just have to be. But if the UN's undermining America's national interest in such a basic way, what's the point of it? Get rid of it. Bulldoze it and build a Trump condominium. Well, Trump goes further. He doesn't just talk about America's national interest. He says, hey, all of you guys, mass migration being encouraged by the UN is undermining all of your countries too, and your countries have the right to stop it.
Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before, with different customs, religions, with different everything.
It's so basic, it's so simple that a lot of people, I think, glossed over it, but this is pretty big. When I was a kid, there were two views you could have on migration. You could either support both illegal immigration and legal immigration, or you could merely support legal immigration, but not illegal immigration. But that was it. The two views were illegal bad, legal good, or illegal good, legal also good. Those were the two views. There is a third view, which is that migration is bad. Sometimes, at least sometimes. Certain writers and thinkers, I frequently quote Dante on this subject, but goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks, like Aristotle and Plato, have argued that immigration really introduces a lot of problems into cities, and you need to be really, really careful when you accept immigrants, if you do it at all. But certainly when you have a mass influx of foreigners who are not assimilating, then you really have to tamp it down. But our societies believe we just can't, that it would be racist, or it would be illiberal, or it would be wrong not to fling open the borders. And that's not true. What Trump is telling the world, and what he has reminded our own nation, is you can stop it. You can say no. You can change things. You don't need to consign yourself to national suicide. And if an ideology demands that you commit a national suicide, you should probably get rid of that ideology. And you've seen this in Europe a little bit. Viktor Orban in Hungary is very good on this. Because while all the rest of Europe now says they're all liberal democracies, he says we're an illiberal democracy. We're a democracy for sure, but we're illiberal. We're a country that's 1,000 years old, founded on the crown of St. Stephen, okay? We're way older than Enlightenment era democracy. And we don't want liberalism. We're way older than liberalism. Okay? We can do it. We can do it. It can be done, believe it or not. Now, on the UN, you'll probably recall that two terrible things happened yesterday at the UN. There was actually a third one. President Trump was arriving at the UN. He gets on the escalator with his wife, and the escalator suddenly stops. And had he not been holding on, he could have jolted forward, really injured himself. He's 79 years old. Melania could have hurt herself too. And then they just walked up the stairs. Trump gets there, the teleprompter goes out. He gives a speech off the cuff. He killed it. Very few people could have done that. He killed it. Then apparently the microphone was out. So he asked Melania, this is all getting this from Truth Social. He asked Melania, how'd the speech go? And she goes, I couldn't hear anything. If people weren't listening in their translator microphones, they didn't hear anything. And President Trump concludes, this wasn't a coincidence. He said, maybe, he was joking. He said, oh, I don't know, maybe these guys don't have any money. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're having problems. But he goes, this wasn't a coincidence. This was triple sabotage at the UN. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. I'm sending a copy of this letter to the Secretary General, and I demand an immediate investigation. No wonder the United Nations hasn't been able to do the job that they were put in existence to do. All security tapes at the escalator should be saved, especially the emergency stop button. The Secret Service is involved. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I strongly suspect President Trump is implying as much, but I'll just state it clearly. People need to be arrested over this. This was a major security breach. This was an attack on the President of the United States, a man who's already survived one very near assassination that blew off part of his ear, and even another assassination attempt where the perpetrator there was just found guilty on all counts. This is very, very serious. And whoever pushed the stop button on the escalator needs to spend a lot of time in jail. That needs to be done. This should be prosecuted by the United States if we can do it. This should be investigated by the UN if they're willing to do it. That needs to happen. As I've said for a couple weeks now, there need to be consequences until behavior improves. Closing your eyes and just wishing that the other side behaves in a civilized way has not worked. It has led to a spike in left-wing terror. Don't take my word for it. Take multiple surveys and The Atlantic magazine at their word. Take the events that we've all seen, the killings, the shootings, the threat to the President of the United States 2 days ago. Now, speaking of global politics, one little victory lap for the Trump administration that very few people are talking about, but it's a big one. Jerome Powell, who's been in a real fight with the president's not happy with how he's managed the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell just came out. He was asked at the 2025 Economic Outlook Luncheon whether or not the tariffs had damaged the economy, led to higher prices for consumers, because that's what everyone said. Remember, back in April, they said that the tariffs were going to destroy the economy and it was going to disrupt global trade. It was going to, who knows, it could lead to a war. And at the very least, it was going to pass on all these prices to the consumers. Cost of consumer goods was going to go way, way up, and it was going to be a disaster. That's what all the top economists said. That's what all the genius talking head pundits said on TV. Other than those of us who said, I don't know, Trump's got a good record on this. Maybe let's just let him cook a little bit. So here is not the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, not the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. No. This is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the independent central bank, in a big public fight with Trump. What happened with the tariffs?
We're now collecting a good bit of revenue. The government federal government collecting a good chunk of revenue, $300 billion a year pace. And the question is, who's paying that? And the candidates for paying those tariffs would be the exporter, the foreign exporter, or someone on our shores. It could be a company or a retailer, or someone who's using the imported product to manufacture something, or the end consumer. And so so far, in its incredibly early days, it doesn't look like the overseas exporters are carrying the bulk of it. It looks like it's that middle group. It's retailers and it's importers, and they're not passing along to consumers that much of the cost. So the actual effects on inflation have been quite modest so far. It's really not. It's a small amount, but.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. I can actually attest to this because I am a business owner that does business overseas, because I produce a product that just in its nature tends to be made overseas, and that's premium cigars. So I've seen this. We were hit with an 18% tariff out of Nicaragua. And I hope that the administration reconsiders that, because the premium cigar industry is very much on the team politically, and you just really can't make these products in America. We use American tobacco sometimes, but given all of the tobaccos you have to get from all over the world and all the rest of it, that's very difficult to do. So anyway, it'd be nice if the tariffs decrease there. But in the meantime, while we do have an 18% tariff, we've just been eating the cost. I think basically almost the entire cost. We've just been eating it ourselves. And so we're getting squeezed a little bit, squeezes the margins, but I know that I'm not the only company that's doing this. Obviously, the chairman of the Federal Reserve says this. All the geniuses, all the pundits, even some of them on the right, and the economists, they all said the tariffs are going to lead to massive inflation because the price increases were going to be passed on to the consumers. Tariffs are just a tax on the consumer, and it just hasn't happened. Turns out that a lot of what we're taught in theory and in ideology and in economics 101 freshman year of college, turns out that doesn't totally accurately represent the world economy. Not to say inflation won't kick in. That might at some point. The prices might be passed on to the consumers at some point. It's just we were told that this was going to happen ASAP, and it didn't happen. Another win that has gone largely unnoticed for the Trump admin. Okay, today is Theology Thursday. The rest of the show continues now. You don't want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, Knowles at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.